All right, Gray Box Sessions, here we go. We're going to talk about a few things today and get a little bit more maybe passionate about a few things. I try to stay middle of the road on many things, but there are certain things that are problematic. The problematic thing that I want to address is censorship. And what I mean by censorship, I know that everybody is got their own idea of censorship when it comes to political ideologies. But I want to, over the weekend I've been digging into some numbers, trying to figure out, is there really an effort to censor one side? That's become increasingly clear. I also want to touch on the impeachment, and let's touch on the new proposal for gun reform. And I think you'll be surprised at, where I stand and why. Not that you necessarily care, but let's dig into some data and some numbers and some interesting facts to see why we come to some of these things. So the Cato Institute last summer did a study. And the premise of the study was essentially, does the political climate inhibit people from expressing their views on social media, or does it cause you pause to essentially express your beliefs? And here's an interesting fact from the Cato Institute study. 50% of strong liberals support of firing Trump donors. 36% of strong conservatives support the firing of Biden donors. And 32% were less worried about, 32% are worried about missing out on job opportunities because of their political opinions. So, just to paint a picture, and just I promise you, let me preface this by saying, I posted this weekend, I think, after Trump's impeachment acquittal. If you think Trump is the devil, you're being silly and evil and terrible and the worst person on the planet. You're being silly. And settle down. Don't give him that much power. And if you also think that Donald Trump is the Savior and Jesus himself, or a prophet, or somebody to be held higher than the President of the United States, you're being silly and you should settle down. Because I think one of the fundamental reasons why we are so divided is we have really, number one, picked improper role models, and we have decided that individuals and leaders of political movements, of organizations, of business organizations, celebrities, people we've equated them to more than just individual humans that have points of view, that some can be very successful, some can be very smart, some can be a number of many things, but at the end of the day, they're still just human beings with flaws and infallibilities, but yet we have associated them with the best of everything and the worst of everything. So we need to be careful. It is apparent, though, from many studies, and also this Cato study that has recently come to light, even though it was done several months ago, that there's this idea that we cancel people based upon their beliefs. So according to the study, 50% of strong liberals support firing Trump donors. And then 36% of conservatives support firing Biden donors. The reason I bring this up is because right now it's a Biden and Trump thing right now, And the interesting thing is, one side clearly is for cancel culture more than the other. But remember that the other side is also for cancel culture when it deems itself advantageous for their beliefs and causes. So do both sides do it? Yes. Does one side do it more? Yes. In some cases, pretty substantially more. To the study, it's interesting that 77% of conservatives believe that they cannot say what they want to say. In other words, they self-censor because of fear of being censored by tech, by their jobs, by social media in general, just those that are on social media, not even necessarily the organizations that are able to just like that get rid of you. 77% of conservatives feel that way. 64% of moderates feel that way. And more centrist liberals at 52% feel like they have to self-censor. What's interesting is that 58% of staunch liberals believe that they do not have to self-censor. And so again, both sides are guilty of this. Both sides are guilty of some censorship advocacy. However, one side is more apt to censor and cancel. And we're seeing it every single day. So my plea would be on this very small little platform is check yourself. Realize that just because somebody believes something differently than you, it does not grant the right to completely silence that individual because it doesn't fit your narrative. So much of social media now is just propagating and reinserting things into a vacuum, into this echo chamber of ideas. How many things do we read and see? Do we just flippantly just put out there over and over and over again without digging into some of the details? We do it all the time. To further illustrate this embarrassment of the, let's call it the square for ideas, that kind of soapbox idea of being able to express yourselves, that is kind of being hindered and squashed and reduced. It's interesting that primarily one side is being attacked. If you are for, it's interesting because it's more if you're for Donald Trump, which is silly town. Because the obsession with this man has got to stop. The obsession on both sides has to stop. The obsession with individuals of political prowess needs to stop. This is something that just quite frankly infuriates me. It's just so tired. It's reaching its pinnacle. And the reason it's reaching its pinnacle, I believe, is that there is a movement to circumvent ideology on both sides. There's a movement to conformity, to believe this or else. This idea to censor ideas, it's being promulgated throughout the nation right now, and it's really, really silly town. So, to the Trumpers, the Trump people out there, and to those that hate him, let's remove ourselves from the obsession. Because at the end of the day, when Donald Trump is gone, we still have a country. And when Joe Biden is gone, we still have a country, and we still have to coexist, and we still have to live with each other. And for heaven's sakes, what is wrong with trying to understand? Don't let this faction of people that have tremendous power in terms of law in Washington, don't let them take over your belief systems. Don't let them take over your life. So to further illustrate this idea that we are supposed to censor one side, it is this. Let's go through a list. It is up substantially from 2019 on those that are being censored. And understand, I don't care about it necessarily about any of these people. They're, take it for what it's worth. But I'm just going to highlight. There's a couple hundred, but let's just highlight a few. The White House press secretary, McEnany. The Trump campaign has been censored. The New York Post has been censored. It's interesting. The actor director of national intelligence has been censored. Tucker Carlson has been censored. Center for Immigration Studies has been. Obviously, President Trump completely removed. Ann Coulter, we move into some more far right. Ann Coulter, Alex Jones, Milo Yiannopoulos, and then jump over to Prager University, and then we've got some representatives. No big deal. They're just representatives of their particular areas of the country. Marsha Blackburn. We've got Mark Meadows. We've got Jim Jordan. We've got Matt Gaetz. We've got Michael. Let's see, who else do we have here? Rand Paul, Ron Paul, Ted Cruz, Glenn Beck, Drudge Report, Breitbart, Red State, Washington Examiner, Newsmax. It is crazy. James O'Keefe was just on this last week, removed his Project Veritas business account was removed completely from Twitter. Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, John Lott, Rush Limbaugh, The Christian Post, Life News. It's some ex-Google and Facebook employees, Newsbusters, National Pulse, Human Events. Donald Trump Jr. has been, in so many ways, the Bongino report. It's crazy. We've got this. If you're sitting on the other side and you hate Trump so bad, and he's just this very bad, terrible human being that should, as many celebrities and politicians, that he should die, and you don't like the guy. What are you afraid of? These people here, Senator Tom Cotton is another one. What are you afraid of? Now, the narrative would be because these people will incite an insurrection. These people are the reason that our integrity in our elections are down. I would tell you that's not correct, because every single time an election is held, the losing party, since over the past 24 years, the losing party agrees, those that are polled, the losing party believes the election is unfair, that it's rigged, that it has issues, problems, whatever it may be, but that's been happening for years now. If you do not win, it's unfair. Now, The difference between this one is that you have a very inflammatory person like Donald Trump that, yes, can incite some unrest. But also on top of that, you have a mass amount of people that are querying of some of these irregularities. And in some instances, provide some proof to questioning of the integrity of the election. Okay? So whatever it may be, irregularities, trucks coming into depositories for counting of ballots at odd hours, where crates and crates are being pulled out. I'm not here to debate that situation. I'm just here to tell you that this time you had an inflammatory, boisterous individual in the president who, mind you, many people, that's why they support this guy, is because he does not back down. Okay? So, this time it's a little bit different. And it's important to ask the question, what are you afraid of? Again, this guy is supposed to go away in obscurity. But what is scary for the other side is that people like him, they like his policies, and they like what he stands for. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. So you need to get over that and figure out how you're going to change minds instead of labeling those people as terrible, bad, evil human beings. Because there are evil human beings and there is evil. And it's important to illustrate and show that. But it's not an entire group of people. It's just not. So stop censoring. More voices give you more ammunition to fight the battle and to prove them wrong. Prove them wrong. Prove these people wrong. Instead of censoring them. How about that? This is where these people go wrong.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
You got to be ready to throw a punch. You have to be ready to throw a punch.
Donald Trump, I think you need to go back and punch him in the face.
That I thought he should have punched him in the face.
Feel like punching him.
I'd like to take him behind the gym if I were in high school. If we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him. No,
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
Take him out now.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Please, get up in the face of some Congress people.
People will do what they do.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
We're going to go in there, we're going to...
So this is just a warning to you Trumpers. Be careful. Walk lightly. And for those of you who are soldiers, make them pay.
If you had to be stuck in an elevator with either President Trump, Mike Pence, or Jeff Sessions, who would it be?
Does one of us have to come out alive?
So this is to the impeachment part. That was a big portion of their defense. So what was the impeachment for? Well, of course, what it was for was a show trial to try to eliminate and eradicate Donald Trump. Well, you're not going to do that. It's not going to happen. And in my estimation, you're galvanizing those supporters. You're pushing people further into their echo chambers and their ideological beliefs. And that's problematic. And so what I want to do is hit a topic and an issue that I think we can illustrate some common ground. And I don't think it'll be as common as some would think. I think it's very no nonsense, but it's very, very polarizing. And that is, recently, on Sunday, President Biden called on Congress to strengthen gun laws on the 3rd anniversary of mass shooting at Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. Okay, again, they're politicians. This is where we're going. We have to understand that using tragedy to form policy is what they do. That's the game plan. So, they're going to do it, and the other side is going to say, look, they're using a tragedy. They're stepping on their graves. It's abhorrent. All those things may be true, but the other side does it too. So this is the political landscape we've laid out, that we're okay with that. Because if it fits our side, we're going to go after it. We're going to do it. So nonetheless, he calls on Congress. These are the things that he's calling on them to do. These are the major provisions. These are the major things. Background checks on all gun sales. Banning assault weapons and high-capacity magazines, and eliminating legal immunity for gun manufacturers. I'm going to walk backwards real quick and just say the last one, eliminating immunity on gun manufacturers, is silly in that the conundrum you find yourself in is, in terms of censorship, the immunity for platforms, the big tech platforms, is Section 230. And how about we just couple this together? If you're going to eliminate immunity there, then let's eliminate immunity in legal for gun manufacturers. It's never going to be done because it tends to lean very left on the social media platforms. However, understand that people need to assume responsibility for things. Those people that stormed the Capitol need to assume responsibility and be prosecuted. Those that have been riot, looting, and burning in the streets for the past several months in last summer need to be held accountable. Many of them are not being held accountable, but they should be held accountable. We should hold them accountable, and they should be prosecuted to whatever extent the law that is available. And this idea so that one, throw that one out. Silly town. I'm going to hit on the one I agree with. And this is where I think we can have some common sense talks. So this is the thing, is I have guns. I believe in the Second Amendment, of course, and have some of these so-called assault-looking weapons. And I do think there should be serious discussions about background checks on all sales. Now, this is to circumvent the so-called gun show loophole that people say it's not necessarily a loophole if you sit on the gun rights advocacy groups. But I would say that there kind of is, and it's not the actual gun show. It's you get a bunch of people together and private citizens, and there are arrangements that are made where private sales of guns happen at gun shows. There are some platforms, some websites, wherein you can arrange the purchase of guns privately. So I would be an advocate for those transactions to have a background check, because now will people that will break the law, Are they going to follow these things? No. But will it counter and inhibit some people from obtaining guns? Certainly. And this is just something, as the times have changed, as we have had mass shootings, and as we have had tragic events caused by gun violence, it is something worth looking at. And so the other side would say they're just trying to take away our Second Amendment rights. And I'll get to that and just illustrate why. But it seems to me that background checks on gun sales could be a bipartisan situation. Assault weapons and high-capacity magazines is an interesting one because assault weapons are rifles that look scary. And if you want to look into that, you can just check it out. Assault weapons primarily are scary-looking hunting rifles. They perform the same actions. They do the same things. I'm not a hunter, but it's a scary-looking hunting rifle. So just keep that in mind. So do you want these rifles to look less scary? Is that the intent? Less scary rifles? So think about that. So this is something that I think that we can come together a little bit on, instead of just saying, no, it's all about getting rid of Second Amendment rights. And I understand the argument that all communist, socialized societies that have, communists in general have killed millions and millions of people. All of those societies did not have a populace with gun rights to stand up for themselves, of course. So, and I don't want to go into the history of all that and the removal of guns and the removal of this censorship idea, all those things, we hear about it all the time. But can we just have some common sense on something like this and say, okay, there's parts of this that we can look at and say, okay, this makes some sense to go in on this. But again, it's your side or that side. It's you're for or against us. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't work. So let me tell you why, in a roundabout way, why gun rights advocates, especially now, and someone like myself, is for some reform and is willing to listen to some reform, but is also kind of nervous. Let me tell you why. We decided as a country, and when I say we, I mean governments, decided that theaters, gyms, salons, museums, casinos, shopping malls, bowling alleys, sporting and concert venues, to some degree restaurants, bars, liquor stores, manufacturing, construction, labor unions, some dispensaries, gun stores, and some office supply stores, we decided that those groups, those businesses, those individuals that worked at those industries, those private businesses, those private ownership organizations, we decided, because a very real pandemic happened, but we decided that they were non-essential. So when you come with these really big ideas to remove, so some of this gun reform is to offer to buy these scary guns to get them off the streets. Do you think that the criminals are going to sell their guns to governments? I mean, come on. So, to those like myself that are middle of the road, I don't care what you think of the current status of the pandemic and the whole trajectory of it and what's gone on with it, not going to get into that. I am just going to speak clearly and plainly about this, and that is when governments and to some and a large extent the society decides that these groups are considered non-essential, literally non-essential, they don't matter, it becomes very concerning when people start to say that gun rights are non-essential. That's what's problematic. And so when you tell me now that the government's going to be good about this, I say I'm nervous because of what's happened this past year. If you would have said something 5 years ago, I would have said you're crazy. They're not going to take away rights. That's just not going to happen. And you will say that it was because of this pandemic, and I will say I understand, but I will also say, remember that we decided that there are individuals and groups and organizations and private businesses for a very, very, very small percentage of risk. We decided that they were non-essential. So think about that in terms of things that are coming out. If you love the political party that's in office now, that's fine. But think about the stroke of a pen, executive order, executive order, executive order, executive order, after one, after another, after another, after another, which I covered. And I said some of them are fine. Some of them were good. I don't think we should just have these executive orders the way we do, but we have them. So be careful. Understand that when the, like I call, wrecking ball shifts to the other side, it's going to be the other way. Do you think we're not going to have impeachment trials? Do you think Trump is the last of them? Do you think that this is not going to happen to members of Congress now? Do you think it's not going to... I mean, Lindsey Graham was talking about our vice president. Do you think that's not going to happen now? Or at least be advocated for? Because she set up a fund to break out and get people out of jail that were burning, rioting, looting, and causing unrest. So we have to be careful. We have to be reasonable. To take a look at things and say, is this how we're going to act? Maybe they're going to act that way, but are we going to act this way? I know it's really tough. It's really tough to navigate what's going on right now. So that's why I continually advocate for things that cause you to look to a higher power, whatever that is. Because right now it seems increasingly difficult to be present and to really live life to some extent, to a full life, because we're constantly pushed in other directions. And so find things that bring happiness and joy, and knowing that happiness is not entitled. It's not a right. It's something that has to be earned. We have to earn it ourselves. We have to earn our own happiness. That's at least my interpretation of it. So be careful. They'll be hypocrites. Are we going to be hypocrites as well? Sure, we're going to do some things that seem hypocritical. But let's stick to some of this stuff and say, okay, some of this stuff is silly, and we need to advocate for things that are less silly and more reasonable. All right, closing up Graybox Sessions. Remember to follow us. When I say us, it's me. But follow. Anywhere you can just type in the Graybox Podcast on Google or any search engine and you'll find us. Graybox Sessions out.
Thanks for listening to the Graybox Podcast.